Hi friends, it's Dina with Forever Free with EFT. And today we're going to go through a tapping script for being overly critical. Now, often that can be being overly critical of others, or even being overly critical of ourselves, or probably both. So we have that inner voice that runs through and picks apart a lot of the things that we do, even if we do them well. So there has been this building up of self-doubt and not believing in ourselves that creates that critic, as well as how we look at others. We have some insecurity. And so it's easy to look at someone else and pick apart everything about them, their hair, their makeup, their clothes, who they're with, where they live, what kind of car they drive, how their children behave, what food do they have in their grocery cart. And the list can go on and on and on. And it's this quick dialogue that if we're not paying attention, it's just like bam, 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 bam. It goes through our mind and we fully pick this person apart and away we go. And we don't realize, and it's not maybe our intention to do that, or to do it because somehow it fulfills a need within ourselves, that we lack something, that we have self-doubt and a lack of confidence and a lot of insecurity about ourselves. And so it makes us feel better to criticize ourselves and others. And so I think this stems, if we're looking through scripture, this stems from that fleshly nature that we have, that beast nature that wants to elevate us over other people because it makes us feel better. And then we don't have to do as much work on ourselves and mastering our own needs, issues, wants, hang-ups, as if we just are critical about ourselves or critical about others. So we want to get over that, though. We don't want to be that way. It's not kind or comfortable. Even though the people can't hear it, it's not a mindset that we want to have, because we want to honor people. People, every person on this planet, whether they know the Father, are known by the Father because He created them, and therefore He loves them, and He has put His image on them and in them, and He has breathed His Ruach, His Spirit, into that person, which gives them that soul space within them. And so they are worthy of love. From the beggar on the street to whoever we idolize, a teacher, a performer, a movie star, somebody that does something that we aspire to do and they are kind of the master of it. It doesn't matter how the world ranks them. The Father ranks us all equal. He loves us all the same, and He wants us to love each other all the same. Now, there is, I'm going to love my family and my children probably more than I'm going to love Joe Schmo off the street. So it's not about that. It's about recognizing that Joe Schmo off the street is still worthy. And I don't need to go through my mental, checklist about him, taking him down a few pegs and elevating myself and going through that crazy cycle that just can happen automatically within us. It's not what the Father has for us. It's not honoring to Him. It's not honoring to them. It's not honoring to us, because people do that to us too. We don't hear all their dialogues. They might take that little glance at us and they're sizing us up and they're critiquing what we're doing in that moment, whether it's in the grocery store, how we school our children, how we conduct our families in public, something in our work environment. That happens everywhere. And instead of doing that, let's be the light. Let's be the light in all of those situations that truly sees and loves and believes in people as beautiful in his sight. And we can gaze at someone and think, wow, there's that precious brother or sister that I see. And they might look like they need my prayer. Maybe they are begging on the street. Instead of going, oh, that filthy beggar, we can say, wow, there's a child of God that needs my prayer and needs my good intention toward them and blessing them through the Father. So that's what we're trying to work with here, knocking down that inner critic, that self-critic and critical of others. So here we go. Even though I tend to have a critical view of myself and definitely of others as I walk through life, I can let go of that criticism and I can begin to take on honoring myself and others the way my Father has intended me to do so. Even though I don't mean to do it, but I walk in a room and I glance around and the thoughts just come and they race around and they pick this person apart and they pick that person apart and they look at their clothing and they look at their weight and they look at their face and maybe they look at their children and how they're acting and what they're doing, and on it goes. And before you know it, we've just decided who they are, what they're all about, and that they need some work. But that's not how the Father sees them. He delights in them. They are beautiful to him. And he tells us in his word that what we've done to the least of these is what we've done to him, even in our thought life. Even though I work really hard at what I do, being a mom, being a dad, being a brother, a sister, a wife, a husband, a coworker, a boss, a parent, a child, a friend, whatever it is. I work hard at being in this world, but I still pick apart what I do, how I do it, my performance. It's often not good enough. It often doesn't measure up to an expectation that I've set for myself that maybe nobody really set for me, but I've put it there. And it's just not good enough. And I build that evidence against myself for why I'm not good enough. But that's not where I want to stay. I don't want to stay stuck in this cycle of self-criticism. I want to walk in his light, in all that he sees in me, in all that he tells me that I am his precious bride, that I am his glorious child, that I am beautifully and wonderfully made, that I am someday going to rule and reign with him, that he thinks enough of me that he is going to allow me, if I walk in his ways, to rule and reign with him, and that I'm worthy. I'm worthy because I'm him, and I'm worthy because he makes me worthy, not because I do anything or perform any way. So I walk around with this critical voice. It attached itself to me somewhere along the way. I learned, probably in childhood, maybe in my family, maybe at school, was probably teased or put down. I was told that I didn't do something well enough or good enough. Maybe I was told that I was stupid. Maybe I had learning difficulties. And so I was teased because I didn't do things as quick and easily as the other kids. Maybe my abilities didn't match theirs at an early age, and we all learn differently. And so I had some struggles, and I was teased, and at some point I knew that there was something different about me. Maybe my parents expressed a lot of disappointment. Their comments were more about disappointment in who I was and how I did things than complimenting me for my efforts and how hard I tried and the effort and energy and sheer will that I put into doing my tasks to learning. And so I started to build that belief. Started to build that belief that maybe there is something wrong with me, or I'm not as capable as everybody else. And so I started to build this measure of myself, how I viewed myself. And I constantly compared myself to the people at the top. The ones that seem to always do it right, the ones that always seem to get it right. Maybe I compared myself to that unreachable standard that we see in the media, that we see on TV of people that have it all together and have it all by the world standards. They have the looks, they have the money, they have the status, they have the happy family, they have the nice house and the nice car. And so I believed that I needed more, I needed to do more, I needed to be more. And I've worked hard at sitting in this belief. It started to take shape in me. It started to expand in me. And it looks like this inner critic that drives me to strive and stress and struggle and try to outperform everything and everyone. It leads me to create unrealistic expectations for myself and for others. And when I create those unrealistic expectations for myself and others, it often leads to disappointment, to anger, to self-criticism. I'm not enough. I'm not good enough. I didn't do it well enough. I should have, could have done it differently, better, more, harder, stronger. Fill in the blank. What did that look like for you? What did that critical voice, what does it tell you? What's that line you repeat to yourself over and over and over again? You're just not good enough. You should have done it differently. You should have done it like so-and-so. You should have been able to do better. You did okay, but you could have done better. And then it gets pushed on other people. Not only do we look at ourselves through this unreachable standard, it now becomes this unreachable standard that we put on those around us, whether we know them or we don't. And that becomes very stressful, and it creates so much tension. It creates a load of tension and stress in our relationships because we're critical. And we walk into the room, and instead of noticing the things that did get done. We notice everything that either didn't get done, or even the things that did get done, they didn't get done well enough. Somehow they don't meet our standard. Now, do we even meet our standard? Maybe we do. Maybe we have become so proud of how we perform and how we meet this incredible standard. And why can't everyone else? If I can do it, why can't they do it? Why don't they ever meet my standard? Why don't they ever meet my expectations? Why do I immediately walk in the room and notice what isn't done or what isn't done well enough? That creates more tension. That creates more stress. That creates a lot of dis-ease and disconnection from ourselves in trying to live up to these crazy things, and with those people that we are trying to relate to that can't meet those crazy expectations. And then there's just that inner judge that we have, that we walk around everywhere we go, and we look at people and we judge them. And those they don't even matter. Like, we just kind of discount those people. I don't know them, so it doesn't matter that I'm judging everything about them. They'll never know, and it won't matter because I may never see them again in my life. But if we're really thinking about that, how we do that, that's ugly. That's messy. That's mean. That is so not compassionate or kind. That does not bring honor to them as a child of the Most High or to ourselves. And so we need to let go of this critic, this judgy person, this judgy voice, this critical voice that we have used. It's become a functioning piece of us. Maybe it's a defense mechanism. Maybe it's a way of a shield from feeling hurt or overly judged by others. Maybe it's a shield that we've used to protect ourselves in relationships. Because we were teased that if we can pick ourselves apart first, if we can judge our performance harder than everybody else, then that judgment that we receive externally doesn't hurt as much. We let it bounce off because no one could judge me harder than I can judge myself. No one's a bigger critic of me than I am of myself. And that just becomes pride. And that grows and steeps within us. And so we're believing this load of lies from this inner critic and this inner judge. So how do we begin to walk a different walk? How do we begin to love, honor, and accept ourselves? How do we begin to love, honor, and accept those around us without judgment and without criticism? We bring it to our Father. He's the one that can ease that mechanism that we created to protect ourselves. He's the one can strip down those layers, that thick skin that we thought we needed to develop. We can ask him, Father, please soften that today. And then we can ask him tomorrow, Father, please soften that for me. Soften that criticism. Soften that judgment. Soften that need to be thick and defensive and have unmet expectations that shouldn't be there anyways because they're not according to you. Father, show me how to love in the way that you love. Show me yourself in people. May I see your image in them. May I practice seeing your image in them. May I just develop thoughts that tell me there's a child of the Father. There's a child of the Father. There's a child of the Father. When I look in the mirror, there's a child of the Father. Wow! That's amazing. And when I start to catch myself in that critical voice, may I take that deep breath and rethink things. May I reword that script in my head about myself or about them. Remind me what your word says about myself and about them, about how much you love us, you delight in us, you've put your spirit in us. We are your ambassadors and your image bearers. That your love and your honor of us is unfailing and unchanging. That we can be made new. We can be made new. I can be made new. I can be made new today, in this moment. I can be made new tomorrow in all those moments. I can be made new and conquer that critical, judging voice. Because he's in me, because his spirit is in me, because he who is in me is greater than he who is in the world, because no weapon, lie, that was formed against me through my whole life can prosper, because I am more than a conqueror. I'm not just a conqueror. I am more than a conqueror because Messiah lives in me, because my Father tells me so. And I'm going to choose to believe the creator of the universe. He will disband all the lies, and he will drop all those weapons, and he will soften me, and he will make me new, and I can let him. I can let him today. I can choose to let him fill me with something completely new and completely different, and I am safe to do so. I am so safe to walk in his paths of righteousness. I am so safe to be loved and to love like him. I can choose to be safe in his love and to let go of this critical judgment, and I can walk in his glorious light today. He will soften me. He will go before me. He will protect me. He will make the way for me. And I no longer need to hold that critical voice and that judge inside me. With every breath, I can let go of it. Little by little, moment by moment, day by day, I can and I choose to. And I will be victorious in him. I will be victorious because my Father gives me that victory. And I will just walk in the new me day by day. So notice how that feels. Hopefully you rated yourself beforehand of how critical you were feeling, or how critical you feel that voice and that judge is within you. And hopefully this softened that and it brought it down, and it took those rough edges off of that critical voice and that inner critic. Try it out, practice it, and see if you find yourself forever free.